I'm Mark Halpern. We're talking to Trump supporters from around the country about who they might support in 2024 if Donald Trump Sr. is not on the ballot. I'm bringing in our group now, and we're going to ask you about a few prospects, starting with this one.
We're going to win in Georgia. We all heard what the Democrats are going to do. Chuck Schumer said if he can take Georgia, he can change America. And we know what the Democrat changes are. Medicare for all, which is going to take away private health insurance for 150 million Americans. The Green New Deal, which is going to ruin our economy. It's a $100 trillion expenditure. The socialism, reduce funding for the police. All these things are going to change the America that we all grew up in, that we all want to keep.
So let's bring in our group and ask them to weigh in. First of all, how many of you are familiar with that gentleman? Raise your hand if you know who that is and know something about him. All right. All right. Let me start with you. Natalie, who is that and what do you know about him?
No. He was the governor, right?
Rick Scott,
Yeah.
former governor of Florida, now senator from Florida. What do you find appealing about him?
I mean, he has experience. We could say that much. He has experience. But I don't like him too much. I think he'll say whatever he needs to say to win where he needs to be, where he needs to win, you know? So I don't trust him too much.
Okay, folks, based on what you might have known about Rick Scott before, or based on that clip, somebody tell me something positive you feel about Rick Scott.
Based on that clip, I mean, he said things that are attractive, I mean, to me that I believe in, but he didn't say it like he believed it.
That's exactly what I think about him. I think he did a good job as governor in Florida, but I haven't seen him do much since he's been in the Senate.
Al talked about his ideas, but maybe his presentation was lacking. Does any of you think that he seems to be a strong communicator?
No.
Anybody?
No, he doesn't communicate well.
No, he doesn't. No.
Yeah.
Just
low
again,
energy.
Does anybody have anything they saw that seemed appealing about him there in that clip, or based on what you know? Anybody besides Al?
Conservative.
I mean, just the fact that he's going against deep state is good, but I don't know him enough. And if they're saying maybe he's just faking it, then I don't like it.
Okay. Raise your hand if you think Rick Scott has a chance to someday be president. Raise your hand. Okay. Let's look at our next prospect right now.
The old paradigm of blind engagement with China simply won't get it done. We must not continue it, and we must not return to it. As President Trump has made very clear, we need a strategy that protects the American economy and indeed our way of life. The free world must triumph over this new tyranny.
All right, so folks, I'm going to start with you, Parksy. 1 or 2 words to describe Mike Pompeo. 1 or 2 words.
I really like him. I don't know what 1 or 2 words. I really like him.
Okay, you like him. Natalie, 1 or 2 words. How you feel about Mike Pompeo?
I'm unsure about him.
Okay, Barry?
He's a pretty tough dude.
Tough dude. All right, Carla?
He seems honest and also like assertive.
Okay, Gina?
I think he's intelligent and he's strong.
Okay. Al?
Bold.
Phyllis?
Yeah, he's stern. He's strong.
Okay. David?
Reasonable and tough.
Reasonable and tough. All right, so raise your hand if you'd like to see Mike Pompeo as a candidate in 2024. If that appeals to you, have him as a choice. Okay. All right, hands down. Thank you very much. Raise your hand if you think Mike Pompeo has a chance to someday be president. Raise your hand. All right, let's move on. Look at somebody else in a post-Donald Trump world for the Republican Party. Here's another option.
As we see chaos unfolding in some of these other battleground states where the votes may not be counted for days, where one state isn't counting anything today, they're just going to go back tomorrow, that people are actually looking at Florida and asking the question, why can't these states be more like Florida?
Who knows who that is? Raise your hand.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. I knew you all knew. Gina, tell me what you like about Ron DeSantis.
I love him. He's great. He's very capable and organized and on top of everything. I think he would make a great candidate for president.
Okay, what other folks think?
I don't think he's playing around. He's not up there just playing games. I think he is a real leader.
He's all business.
Right.
Yeah, I like his actions. He's motivated, transparent.
Tell me what your sources of information, obviously, of those who don't live in Florida, how have you followed his career? watched him on TV, or what do you know about him? From where do you know about him?
I see a lot on TV. As I have family that live in that state, so I follow what goes on there. Different news organizations.
Okay. If you've got the thought of him as a potential candidate, tell me if you think he'd be a good president. Who thinks he'd be a good president? Raise your hand. Okay, Phyllis, you don't. Tell me why.
No, but I don't have a lot of information on him.
Okay.
And, being in Oklahoma, he kind of comes off a little goofy.
Anybody else have something that more less positive along those lines to say about him? Mostly we've heard from those of you who think positively about him. Anybody think negatively about him? Can explain why?
Well, he might have that same problem of bridging the divide. He's just very, very strict. I see it.
Let's look at one more prospect for 2024 in a post-Trump world.
And so this disease that would drive us apart should be for us an urgent summons to fight to bring our lives back together. It is a summons to address the despair that has gripped too many in this nation, to reforge the ties of affection and friendship, to rebuild our shared communities, to strengthen the bonds of our neighbors, neighborhoods, and churches and families.
Regardless of whether you know who that is, whether you've ever seen him before, just reacting to the way he presented himself in that video clip, tell me one or two words what you thought of his presentation. Parksy.
First thing I thought was Rhino. I don't know who he is, really.
Okay, Natalie?
He reminded me of Joe Biden when he tried to talk to people. He just stares weirdly into the camera.
Okay, Barry?
I'd need a cup of coffee to listen to him.
Okay, Gina?
He seemed very dull.
Very dull. Okay, Carla?
Yeah, hard to connect with him. Like, what is he even talking? Like nothing there.
Okay, David?
Yeah, disconnected and kind of artificial.
Phyllis?
Yep.
Need some acting classes.
Okay, and Al?
Almost like elevator music. That's what.
Yeah.
All right. Without telling you who that is, raise your hand if you think that guy will ever be president of the United States. Raise your hand. No. That's Josh Hawley. He's a senator from Missouri and talked about as a potential candidate. Maybe not the favorite of this group, I would say.
By who?
I want to close with some show of hands questions here. Let's say that two of the choices in 2024, if current President Trump weren't on the ballot, two of the choices were Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka. They both ran. Raise your hand if those two were on the ballot, if you'd vote for Donald Trump Jr. instead of Ivanka. Raise your hand. All right, and raise your hand if you'd vote for Ivanka instead of Donald Trump Jr. All right, so pretty evenly split there in the Trump versus Trump. Final question. Raise your hand if Donald Trump, the current president, runs again in 2024. Raise your hand if he would definitely get your vote, regardless of who else ran. Raise your hand. All right. Interesting. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll be back with more focus groups. See you soon.